Teaching verbal imitation, Echoics. Imitation refers to the emission of a behavior that is topographically similar and temporally proximal to the behavior of a model. In other words, it means to copy or mimic the behavior of another person. It is difficult to overstate the important role that imitation plays in learning and development. Imitation is perhaps the most fundamental means of acquiring new behaviors and knowledge.
Good job! High five! Awesome! Say uta.
Uta.
Say ite.
Ite.
Good! Nice job! High five! Say woo.
Whoa.
Say why.
Infants and children absorb vast amounts of information through the imitation of others. When they imitate vocally, we call this echoic behavior. In typically developing infants and children, vocal imitation skills emerge early in development and occur naturally. By 6 months of age, an infant usually babbles or produces repetitive syllables, such as baba or dada. Babbling soon turns into a type of nonsense speech, also known as jargon. Jargon often has the tone and cadence of human speech, but does not contain real words. By the end of their first year, most children have mastered the ability to say a few simple words. Most children with autism spectrum disorders, however, have what has been called a core deficit in the ability to imitate. They show little interest in the behaviors of those around them and do not attempt to imitate what they see and hear. For children with ASD, these behaviors require direct teaching. Teaching imitation and echoic skills is an extremely important focus of early intervention and provides the foundation for learning more advanced language. The instruction of an imitation repertoire requires that a skill is broken down into its most basic components, taught, reinforced, and then expanded upon.
Nice.
When teaching imitation, there are two topographies of imitative behavior that should be targeted: motor imitation and verbal imitation. Verbal imitation, also known as an echoic, involves mimicking the vocalizations of a model. Historically, many ABA programs recommended teaching motor imitation first, before moving to verbal imitation. More recently, it has been suggested that the two forms of imitation can be taught simultaneously. In this video, we will review echoic language or vocal imitation, which involves copying the sounds produced by another person or a model.
Coin.
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 Echoic behavior is synonymous with verbal imitation. By what age can most typically developing children babble sounds such as ba, ba, da, da? Can't remember what it said.
Echoic training is an important early step in teaching students with ASD. Vocal imitation is an important skill and critical first step in the progression towards speech production. Vocal imitation, in verbal behavior terminology, is referred to as teaching the echoic repertoire. Echoic behavior is a type of verbal behavior where a speaker repeats or copies the words spoken by another. One example is a child saying cookie after a parent says cookie.
Good job.
For the echoic, the antecedent is a vocalization made by the model.
Good. Say eat.
The student's behavior is a vocal response that imitates the antecedent. The consequence is some form of a non-specific reinforcement. That is, the response does not specify the reinforcer. It could be praise or a tangible item such as food or a toy.
Nice job! Very nice!
Speech
Here,
production
have a
can be
gummy.
challenging for many students with ASD, and so there are many important factors to consider in early verbal imitations or echoic training.
Good.
As much as possible, echoic training should be supportive, playful, and positive. Reinforcement should keep the experience motivating. Effort and attending should be rewarded with lower-level reinforcement, and powerful reinforcers should be reserved for the verbal imitation itself.
Yeah, these are way better.
As the student becomes more proficient with verbal imitation, differential reinforcement can be used to shape articulation. In the beginning, however, reinforcement should be plentiful. Why do typical children develop imitation repertoire so easily? There are many explanations. The concept of automatic reinforcement has been offered as an explanation for the phenomenon of language acquisition in the absence of direct reinforcement. Young learners may engage in language because the sound of themselves talking is reinforcing. This is what is meant by automatic reinforcement.
Blueberry.
Automatic reinforcement as it relates to early language acquisition may occur through a process of pairing. When previously neutral stimuli, such as parent vocalizations, are paired with reinforcers that are delivered during feeding, diaper changing, and other routines, then the parent vocalizations become reinforcing. So, as children produce sounds that resemble those produced by their parents, these sounds may function as automatic reinforcement due to this pairing history. This process may account for the shaping of vocalizations that are similar to and reinforced by a child's own verbal community. Further related to automatic reinforcement is a procedure for echoic training called stimulus-stimulus pairing, or SSP. Stimulus-stimulus pairing involves repeatedly pairing a neutral stimulus, sound of one's own voice, with a reinforcing stimulus, food or affection given by a parent. Through this process of pairing, the speech sounds produced by the student are conditioned to be reinforcing. The increase in responding due to pairing may be at least partly attributed to automatic reinforcement, or the idea that the sounds themselves are reinforcing. When the speech sounds themselves become reinforcing, it is hoped that speech production will be strengthened. The two-step procedure for stimulus-stimulus pairing goes like this. Step 1. The speech sound stimulus is presented and paired with the reinforcing stimulus. For example, the target sound B is made by the teacher while a toy is presented. Step 2. Over time, the sound B will become correlated with reinforcement, such that the sound B itself becomes reinforcing. Over the last 2 decades, a number of studies have been directed at SSP and echoic training procedures. Many have experimentally verified the effects of SSP and automatic reinforcement processes on the development of vocalizations for children with little or no verbal repertoires. Although for many the effects in the studies tended to be only temporary, warranting the idea of a possible combination of stimulus-stimulus pairing and direct reinforcement as used with echoic training may be beneficial.
True or false? An increase in verbal responding due to pairing may be at least partly attributed to automatic reinforcement. An increase in verbal responding due to pairing may be at least partly attributed to automatic reinforcement. True. There have been no studies verifying the effects of stimulus-stimulus pairing procedures yet. False. They just listed 3 of them. Some combination of stimulus-stimulus pairing and echoic training procedures may be beneficial to individuals with little or no verbal repertoires. Yes, true. Great, you got it.
In contrast to stimulus-stimulus pairing is the procedure known as echoic training. Echoic training involves a direct reinforcement contingency whereby echoic behavior is reinforced directly. Example, if a child repeats "ah" in response to the teacher saying "ah," they will be given a preferred toy. In echoic training, the teacher should model the target sound. the target sound may be presented up to 3 times. If the student makes any attempt to echo after any of the presentations, the teacher should reinforce immediately. If the student makes no effort to echo, the reinforcer is given after the 3rd presentation of the target sound. Let's watch examples of this technique in practice.
Work. French fry?
Sure.
Got telephone.
Telephone.
Really articulate.
Yeah.
Little girl. Okay, say ah. God. Say ooh. God. Say ooh. Say ooh. Good. Say eat. Nice job! Very nice. Here, have a gummy. Awesome job. High five. Down in the hole. You got so.
In a beginning level learner, you may focus on just individual sounds or parts of words. Be sure to pay attention to what sounds are developmentally sequenced and what sounds are the easiest for your learner to produce. Listed here are sounds categorized from what is generally easiest to increasingly more difficult. This information can be found on the Verbal Imitation program sheet attached to this module. Once your student can imitate single sounds, you can start to target blends. For example, consonant-vowel sounds such as ba, mu, do. Multisyllabic words like mama, dada, bye-bye, cookie, mommy, and baby. And 2-word phrases, mommy go, my bear. In the most advanced levels, you can target multi-word phrases. This can be done after your learner has mastered the individual sounds and can repeat single words proficiently.
Okay, ready? Say.
My mom has red hair.
My mom has red hair.
Good.
Verbal imitation or echoic training is not just for beginning level learners. There are targets that can be taught to intermediate and advanced learners and can involve not just sound, but things such as volume, pitch, and inflection. Some individuals with autism may not necessarily have difficulties with articulation, but may need help with their volume or their inflection.
They're fun.
Seen here is a learner who may benefit from some echoic training for inflection.
Fun.
Fun.
Say, the chair is fun?
The chair is fun.
Understanding how to change inflection to make a question versus a statement may need to be targeted.
In echoic training, if the student makes no effort to echo, the reinforcer is given after the 3rd presentation of the target. Multi-word phrases should be targeted from the beginning of all echoics programs, after your learner has mastered blends, after your learner has mastered multisyllabic words, after your learner can repeat single words proficiently.
In choosing targets for stimulus-stimulus pairing or echoic training, there are a few important guidelines. Select sounds or words that the student is already able to produce. You may want to do a sound inventory to see which sounds the child produces spontaneously.
That's lots of E sounds. 5. Ready? E. Good.
Select developmentally easy and appropriate sounds. For example, and b, rather than ol or th.
Now, say ah, say say k, say e, e. Good job.
Choose sounds or words associated with reinforcers, making them functional for the learner. For example, b for bubbles, ba for ball, or ma for mom, as they can be shaped into mans. Choose sounds that are pertinent to play activities and interests, for example, animal sounds such as moo, ba, peep, or vehicle sounds such as vroom vroom and choo choo. Another technique for teaching echoics is referred to as anticipatory games. In this situation, the teacher and student are engaged in a fun activity, such as singing, tickling, or jumping. The teacher abruptly stops the interaction and models a sound for the student to imitate. The teacher can then reinforce echoic imitation by restarting the fun activity.
The itsy bitsy
Fire.
went up the water.
Down.
Say ah. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Say ba. Out came the sun and...
If you're looking for an assessment to gauge where your learner is at with their echoic skills, the VB map can be of help. Included in the VB map is the Early Echoic Skills Assessment, the EESA, developed by Dr. Barbara E. Esch. It is located at the end of the Milestones Assessment within the VB map. This assessment evaluates a child's ability to echo or repeat vocalizations, words, and phrases provided by a model. This would be a good starting point when assessing where a particular learner is at.
Very good.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Good. Daddy.
Daddy.
Good job, Kiana. Hot dog.
Hot dog.
Very good. Tubby boy.
Tommy boy.
Tubby boy.
Tommy boy.
B.F. Skinner said, "When some echoic behavior has been acquired, the acquisition of a new unit is simplified." So remember, when teaching your students echoic behavior, you are opening doors to more opportunities to communicate. Using plenty of reinforcement should keep the experience motivating. Reward effort in attending, and as always, keep it fun.